3 deaths for one body. Not 1, not 2, 3. If you think a rope ends the story, hold your breath, because for high treason in medieval England, the sentence was a staircase of dying. Each step, crueler than the last, built to make a man perish 3 times before his name was scattered like ash. Tonight, you are not a spectator. You are the condemned. You feel the chain tug first, a rough bite at the wrists as the prison gate yawns and the street howls. The rope at your waist is tied to the tailboard of a sledge that lurches forward, and London opens like a mouth. Newgate falls behind. The road stretches ahead, 3 long miles that will sand your skin and grind your pride. Hands from windows hurl refuse, fists jab from the crowd, and the stink of offal mixes with hot breath and cheap ale. Someone spits, a lad laughs, a woman turns away and crosses herself. You taste grit. Your knees spark pain as cobbles drum your bones. This is drawing, they say, either dragging a traitor to the gallows or drawing out what makes him human. Do not worry about the scholars arguing the definition. Your body is already learning both meanings at once. The horse trudges, hooves clapping like a slow drum, and every yard you travel is a sentence passed upon your strength. A fishwife flings yesterday's guts. A baker dusted white with flour pauses mid-need, eyes flat and tired. A priest at a doorway lifts 2 fingers in blessing and lets them sink again when soldiers stare him down. Your mouth fills with dust and the copper taste of fear. A boy trots alongside the sledge, counting the blows you take from the road, losing count, starting again. Gallowbirds circle high, expecting news. Even the dogs keep a careful distance, as if cruelty has a smell they recognize. Sometimes the sledge digs into ruts and jerks you so hard your shoulder pops and slithers back. Sometimes the rope slackens and you glimpse your hands, raw and swollen, and you think of the small things those hands once did, tying a bootlace, lifting a cup, buttoning a child's coat before the city decided they were better used as anchors for a lesson. You try to swallow, and the throat refuses. The guards call out to clear the lane. A cooper bangs his mallet twice, a signal or a prayer, and the crowd tightens as if the street itself is exhaling to push you forward. At last, the procession slows. The sledge lurches to a halt, and sound thins to a nervous hum. Before you is timber, 2 thick uprights with a beam, a ladder leaning like an afterthought, a rope that swings and stops and remembers. The ground here is tamped hard with boots and history. Sawdust lies thick to drink what must be spilled. You can smell last week. You can smell last year. The gallows does not forget. A sergeant reads aloud, voice steady as a bell, that you are to be taken from prison and drawn to the place of execution, that you are to be hanged by the neck until half dead, that your bowels are to be taken out and burned before you, that your head is to be struck off and your body divided into 4 parts, that your head and quarters are to be set up in those places the king directs. The words are clean, the meaning is not. The crowd hears the cadence more than the clauses. They know the tune, they hum it with their blood. The ladder bites your shins as they make you climb. The noose slides across your neck and settles like a hand that means to stay. There is no trapdoor, no merciful arithmetic of the neck broken and the mind switched off like a candle. This rope is a miser. It takes in pennies. It takes in breath. Your toes paw at air and find none. Your eyes pulse with pressure. Your vision narrows to a funnel of light. The world thunders inside your skull like an ocean trapped in a shell. Your body becomes a liar. It tells you air exists if only you kick harder, if only you arch your back, if only you promise something quickly. Anything. The crowd goes quiet in the peculiar way crowds do when a single life is louder than all of them. You wait for darkness to close its fist. It hovers, counting. Then rough hands seize your legs and yank. The rope relaxes. You fall onto boards that rush up like sea. Your lungs seize and then rip open. The first sound you make is a bark. The second is a sob you didn't invite. The rope above still swings in lazy judgment. Death One knocked. You answered. They slammed the door in its face. because the show must go on. A cleaned blade flashes at the edge of your sight. A brazier nags the air with heat and a sweetness you'd rather not name. The executioner wears leather that remembers every afternoon like this, and moves with the indifference of a man repairing a fence. A helper wipes his hands on a cloth already dark with other men. They do not look at you for long. They look at each other, at the edge of steel, at the glow of coals, at the small technicalities that separate a scandal from a success. A bad death is a whisper in taverns. A good death is applause for the crown. Only the worst merit, the three deaths, someone says behind you, and someone else answers with a sound that could be a prayer or a curse. Women, they say, are spared this spectacle. To strip a woman for the stage would shame the audience more than the victim, and so the message is wrapped differently. Fire, axe, but the message remains. Men are for display. Men are for the scaffolding of policy. Hold him, the hangman says, and hands do what hands do. The point of the knife touches and tests, finds the place where resistance will be least, and you feel your body's boundary become a rumor. The cut is not loud. The cut is a line you will never step back across. Heat rolls against your cheeks. The brazier breathes. The crowd leans as a single creature, weighted with many kinds of interest. A gentleman at the front hides behind his kerchief. A beggar stares, unblinking, as if memorizing instructions. A child's mouth opens and does not close. The first glimpse is not of gore, but of color, too bright, too earnest, too alive to belong outside. Then, the texture of what kept you going becomes a public secret, and the fire begins to teach. The smell is everything at once. Kitchen, stable, battlefield, church incense gone wrong. A woman faints. Two men catch her and do not release their gaze from the work. The hangman's assistant lifts a slick loop and feeds it to the flames, with the same care a mother gives a newborn to a cradle. The hiss is a letter in an alphabet you wish you didn't understand. If you go now, the law will not complain. If you stay, you will learn a truth that few ever learn, that a person can be alive and yet be treated as literature read aloud to a city. Hearts come out and are held high like trophies, and the line has been said so many times it carries its own gravity. Behold, the heart of a traitor. The crowd replies not with words, but with the organized silence of agreement. This is death too, the death of what was inside, dragged outside and instructed to burn. Why build such a staircase at all? Why not a single clean act and a quick walk home? Because kings fear slow things more than sudden things. A blade aimed at a royal ribcage is sudden. A plot is slow. A coalition is slow. Ideas are slow and very hard to hang. The answer is a punishment that unfolds like a sermon with props. First, the procession through the streets to recruit witnesses. Then, the rope to rehearse death and deny it. Then, the brazier to turn the private into public property. Then the axe and the quarters to ensure no grave gathers allegiance, no single patch of earth becomes a pilgrimage. And finally, the spike, a punctuation mark you can see from a distance on foggy mornings, a sentence that continues after you've stopped reading. To understand the ritual's perfection, you need a man who completed it like a grim checklist. Dafydd ap Gruffydd, Prince of Wales. Think of him not as heraldry, but as breath and hunger and stubbornness. In 1282, at Easter, he struck Hawarden and pulled war back to its feet. Edward I did not argue. He built roads of soldiers. He bought masons to bully the land into submission, castles like teeth along new jaws. Snowdonia did the rest, pinching the valleys into corridors where numbers speak the loudest language of all. Dafydd fled with a family tethered to him by fear and love. A wife who knew how to keep children quiet. Sons who memorized hiding places the way other boys memorize saints. Daughters who learned the cold weight of silence. He hid in rock and bog, in shepherd huts and cliff shadows. He learned the sounds stones make when stepped on by men who mean harm. He learned the taste of a day with no meat. The Bishop of Bangor, Anian, knew the folds of this country, and knowledge, when sold dear, becomes a knife. Betrayal was quicker than hunger. When they took Daffod alive, London had already chosen which verbs to use. Dragged through Shrewsbury, he looked like any man whose luck is bankrupt, chafed, furious, surprised at how ordinary the sky can be when your world ends. Hanged until the first darkness lapped his eyes, and then cut down, he tasted death one and was pulled back because death two had a timetable. Accused of sacrilege for lifting rebellion during the holiest days, he watched his inside life turn into smoke that told its own parable. Accused of seeking the king's death, he paid in sections. The head that thought, the arms that carried, the legs that ran, each shipped as separate warnings. Bristol, York, Hereford, Northampton, while the head was granted the city's tallest sentence at the Tower of London. A raven perched and tilted its own black crown. Boatmen learned to point with their chins. Visitors learned to walk slower. England learned again how to keep a promise written on wood and hunger. You breathe now only because no one has decided to take that from you. Men before Daffod rehearsed the ritual by accident or design. William de Morisco, pirate of Lundy, dragged and beheaded and atomized into a Tor. Andrew Harclay, Earl of Carlisle, who signed peace without permission and learned how quickly parchment can become a rope. They prove the flexibility of the word treason. Sometimes it is a blade, sometimes it is a treaty. Always it is an audience. Return to the ground under your cheek. The sawdust here is heavy with old afternoons. A cart creaks, a dog whines. A fruit seller hawks bruised pears and keeps one eye on you, as if to learn a new recipe for fear. The worst part is not the pain, but the attention you cannot turn off. A butcher in a leather apron chews and does not blink. A boy's fingers knot in his mother's skirt. She says nothing because nothing fits. A clerk repeats your name under his breath, writing it into a neat line of memory to serve later at supper, because a city needs fresh stories the way a body needs fresh bread. You ask yourself useless questions. Where will my left hand go? Who will carry my head? Will the man who salts my flesh speak to it as if it might answer? Such questions have answers, but not for you. The soldiers nudge the crowd back into order. A rope squeaks. The hangman looks to the sergeant. The brazier grumbles and sparks. The world arranges itself for the last movements. If you faint at the right time, you may skip a verse. If the hangman is clumsy, gossip will scold him, but the craft improves because the crown demands efficiency. A scaffold is an office. It has hours, tools, and a style guide. It exists to convert a single life into public policy through choreography. Everything unnecessary has been trimmed away. Everything essential has been sharpened until it shines. Walk with me through the idea one last time, from Newgate to the beam, and ask what purpose each step serves beyond cruelty. The dragging spends your strength and buys witnesses. The hanging announces the state's control over breath, the first and last property of a person. The disemboweling forces the public to confront the seam between inside and out, between private meaning and public message. The beheading ends your capacity to answer back. The quartering prevents any single place from owning your memory, and the exhibition spikes, gates, bridges, consecrates the whole lesson to time. It is not just that people see, it is that they must see as part of their errands, their courting, their business, their prayers. Here is the small mercy. Not every man walked the entire staircase. A rope sometimes miscalculated. A heart stopped early. Money or pity sometimes softened a blade. But exceptions are pebbles thrown at a fortress wall. The wall stands. Ask London Bridge how many seasons it glittered with iron and bone. Ask the tower's ravens how many names they learned to pronounce with their beaks. Ask a ferryman how many passengers pretended to look away and then paid an extra penny to be rowed close for a better view. The ritual became part of the city's weather: fog, rain, heads. We end where we began, with you, at the edge of the last breath you own. You have been paraded and strangled and opened and taught to watch yourself. You have been explained to the crowd like a diagram. You have been divided in principle before you are divided in fact, and soon your head will ride above the river's gray ribbon while your hands and feet learn the names of roads you once traveled as a whole man. Strangers will point, friends will pretend not to see, children will ask questions and be shushed and then stare anyway. Your name will rise, oddly, because that is what names do when stitched to fear. Listen to the way a crowd dissolves. It doesn't burst, it drains. Boots scuff. A joke is told too loudly. Someone bargains for a cheap cut of meat. A priest closes his book. A seller counts coins. Gulls argue. The wind keeps its old appointment with the parapets. The stage clears. The lesson remains. A realm has explained itself with wood and rope and iron and smoke, and for a while no one will test the grammar. If any part of you remains outside this story with clean hands, step closer and feel how carefully each cruelty was chosen. The long road spends your body. The rope introduces death and withdraws it. The brazier turns your insides into a lecture everyone can understand. The axe and the quarters erase the idea of you as a single thing. The spike drafts the living as unpaid heralds. This is the architecture of fear. It is not a rage. It is a plan. It is a palace taught to speak. Carry one sentence with you as you leave, because it is the spine of everything you have seen. This punishment did not only kill a man, it proved that power can grind a body to keep a crown. If you want more history told without flinching, more truth, less varnish, stay with Flow of History. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell. Every week, we bring the past to the scaffold and let it speak for itself.